If I was Mauricio Pochettino, I would be fuming. West Ham have just beaten Chelsea 3-1 in a game that is chock full of moments, narratives, and just a lot of stuff to discuss. We're going to get straight into things, but first, I'm Sideline Sedo. Just wanted to say thanks for 500 subs. Huge, huge, huge accomplishment for the channel. And I think it's an accomplishment for the community. And I just want to thank everybody who has subscribed so far. But if you make it to the end of this video and you haven't subscribed already, why don't you consider subscribing? I cover all things Premier League on the channel, mostly Liverpool since I am a Liverpool fan. But I'm going to try to keep my bias out of this video. But man, I do think Chelsea's players deserve a scathing kind of go at them because, quite frankly, let's just look at the formation real quick. It was a 3-4-2-1 for Mauricio Pochettino and a 4-2-3-1 for West Ham. And right off the bat, you look at Chelsea's lineup, and based on the way that a lot of Premier League teams operate, if you are a big player, or you're a player who needs to kind of be integrated into the squad, a la, say, Fabinho back a few seasons ago with Liverpool, or say Moises Caicedo now, or even Romeo Lavia now, you probably won't start your first game. So that's understandable that they don't start. But I'm trying to find the preview here with the lineups. But just as a quick kind of disclaimer, Moises Caicedo did play. He was on the bench. Romeo Lavia wasn't even on the bench. And honestly, for him, that's kind of, like I would just be like, dang, obviously just a replacement or a backup to a replacement. And, Conor Gallagher, he had a decent game. But when Moises Caicedo came in, he came in for Ben Chilwell. And Chelsea just looked like they stopped passing. The scoring started with Naif Aguard, who scored a header off a corner from James Ward-Prowse. James Ward-Prowse, by the way, became the first player in West Ham history to assist 2 goals on his debut. So, round of applause for James. Class player, in my opinion. And the fact that he's still in the Premier League warms my heart. Probably sad for Southampton fans, but, classic James Ward-Prowse delivery off a corner. It's a header. Naif Aguard then picks up a yellow card in the 13th minute. And 15 minutes after that, Carney Chukwuemeka equalizes and the game goes level. Lucas Paqueta is somebody we'll talk about a bit more in this video later on, but he plays a big part in this game because after all that kind of, sort of clawing back, so to speak, you're away from home, you're 1-0 down in the first 7 minutes. You have to try to at least get a point and maybe try to turn things around and get a goal again and win the game. That's the goal for Chelsea here, right? Carney Chukwuemeka looked great, but then he was subbed off due to apparently injury. And after that, there was some kind of miscommunication at the back, so to speak, with Chelsea. Disasi ended up, losing the ball, and James Ward-Prowse played through Mikel Antonio, who scored a really good strike to the bottom left corner. Moises Caicedo then came on in the 61st minute. Ben Chilwell could be kind of put to blame, so to speak, for that second goal. He was a little out of position. He kind of didn't make things easy for Axel Disasi. And then after that, Moises Caicedo comes in. And 6 minutes after that, Naif Aguard, who got a yellow earlier and a goal, was sent off. West Ham fans applauded him. The commentators were a little confused. I thought it made sense, personally. West Ham didn't do too well in the league last season. Naif Aguard gave them a goal. Now they're 2-1 up. And they felt confident almost, it felt, the West Ham fans. They were nervy, obviously, as everybody who would have their team lose, a player to a red card would be in a situation like this. 2-1 up at home against Chelsea, get a red card, not the best of situations. But then, all the way, the 90-plus minute, 92nd, 93rd minute, Moises Caicedo makes a big error. And let me just say, before this, we'll get into the stats very shortly, but before all this, Chelsea was kind of slowly less and less capable to break into the game. There were some moments where Sterling would get through and whatnot, but in the first half, Chelsea had significantly more shots. And, if you look at these stats really quick, 17 shots to 12, 75.6 possession, possession to 24.4, 88% pass accuracy, 15% dribbles to 4, or 15 successful dribbles to 4, 19 aerials 1 to 12, 16 tackles 13, and 9 corners to 3. West Ham were dispossessed 5 more times than Chelsea, but Chelsea were also dispossessed quite a bit. If you look at the shots here, you can see that Chelsea, after and leading up to their goal, were shooting a ton. And then it just kind of fell apart a bit. There was less and less shots. West Ham got more shots in the second half by far. And at the end of the day, I just kind of have to say that for Chelsea, a team that has spent, the spending online has been discussed time and time again for Chelsea. Hundreds of millions, nearly £1 billion in a year. That is a disgusting amount of wealth, period. And for Chelsea, you look at this squad really quick. Robert Sanchez, Thiago Silva, Axel Disasi, Levi Colwell, Malo Gusto, Ben Chilwell, Enzo Fernandez, Conor Gallagher, Carney Chukwuemeka, Raheem Sterling, Nicholas Jackson, Moises Caicedo was on the bench. But regardless, that starting 11, you look at it, and they have never played together, like start a game. They have never fully started a game. There's obviously going to be chemistry issues, but even still, a lot of those players, being that so much money has been spent in this squad, and I know it'll take time or whatever, you kind of need results regardless, because Chelsea's getting to a place where their midfield two of Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez cost £227 million. That is a lot of money. I think they're both talented players. I think it's an overpay just a bit for Enzo. And for Moises, it's, I think, a steeper overpay. But either way, they're overpays. And if you overpay, you kind of are expected to, have to return on that investment. Obviously, they're on very lengthy contracts. But the way that this is going, if, they aren't... Enzo, by the way, a penalty was saved in the first half by Alphonse Areola. So there is that. But Chelsea have spent so much money, and you have a player like Moises Caicedo who is, I'm going to be honest, I wanted him at Liverpool. Straight up, when I heard the news, I was excited. It's my most viewed video today, to date, I should say. And it's, one of those things where it's like, when Chelsea took him, I was a little despondent. But now, honestly, I'm fairly happy. Moises Caicedo had 84% pass accuracy, 49 touches, but he was kind of absent. And when he did come in, Chelsea, the way that they played, they were just kind of passing around and trying to get like crosses in, but it was just aimless. It was really not directed. And I think that comes down to the fact that Chelsea's going with this approach, even with, you look at the defensive stats here, and you look at West Ham's, and West Ham was clearing the ball much, much better. Like, Thiago Silva did a good job for Chelsea, but the likes of Kufal, Zuma, obviously Chelsea had a lot more possession, so West Ham needed to clear the ball more. But Chelsea just, not a lot of tackling here. A lot of tackling for West Ham, but Chelsea, there's kind of like, honestly, it's probably equal at this point. That's not really a claim that needs to be made, I don't think. But Lucas Paqueta did score the penalty, and I think this game, obviously very early into the season, who knows where either team will end up at the end of the season. But from a narrative perspective, David Moyes, someone who finished, pretty low in the Premier League for what he would have liked, but also won the Conference League. So now he's got Europa League football this season. This is going to be a big motivation to West Ham. They're going to feel amped up, and they're going to want to kind of build on this. But for Chelsea, like, the draw at home to Liverpool was honestly a fever dream of a game. Neither side had a defensive mid. Chelsea now have both defensive mids that both clubs were targeting at the time. And it's at a point where 1 point in the first game, now a loss away to West Ham. And Chelsea, honestly, it's just their image. Here we go. let's see who their next game is, because they face Luton. So honestly, Chelsea's a little off the hook. They need to make a statement victory against Luton, because Luton is going to be, unfortunately, the punching bag of many teams in the Premier League this season. But with the likes of Reece James injured, let me see the preview real quick. Chelsea does have a bit of a injury crisis, and they had one a bit last season, but it's just kind of like, even with these players back, you still need to integrate them. You still need your big money signings like Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez to, pay off and pay dividends, so to speak. You still have to hope that Robert Sanchez can, do you justice in goal. Nicholas Jackson's a big question mark, but I was fairly impressed with him. Sterling as well today. Sterling played much better this week than last week. But this West Ham team is, if you look at the starters, besides Ward-Prowse, is fairly similar to what West Ham lined up as last season. So it's just kind of like a little disappointing, I would imagine. As a Chelsea fan right now, you would anticipate more. Obviously, Reece James didn't play today. Christopher Nkunku is out for months. Benoit Badiashile is out. Wesley Fofana is also out for months. Broya, a big question mark as well. Like, will he start over Jackson? Will he fit better than Jackson? That remains to be seen. Marcus Bettinelli, honestly, doesn't make an impact for them. And Trevor Chalobah could, but you already have Disasi, who did score in his first game, but, had an error leading up to the goal. It wasn't all his fault, but it happened nonetheless. And Colwell here, who Chelsea have tied down to a long-term contract, and you would anticipate that they're going to continue to play Colwell there when Badiashile returns. So Badiashile, Fofana, and Trevor Chalobah are all backup center backs. So if there is an injury in the foreseeable future to any one of Chelsea's defenders, and I know that's kind of like if I had two wheels, I'd be a bike kind of statement. But at the end of the day, Chelsea's just in a really shaky place right now. And it's kind of just insane to say that after they just spent 115 million pounds on Moises Caicedo, 103 million on Enzo Fernandez last January, hundreds of millions of pounds as well throughout, the past year since Bowley's taken over, really. And on top of all that, the real kicker for me is they lack a striker. And if you saw how Chelsea was playing in that second half, the amount of crosses, the amount of wayward passes, the amount of hoofball that was just being deployed, it quite frankly, I would be concerned as a Chelsea fan. Like, and I'm not trying to be like, a Liverpool fan who's saying that my team's in like a better spot, because Liverpool is also in an equally shaky spot. But with Liverpool, it feels a little more, justifiable in the sense that you just kind of need to get 1 to 2 more pieces, and you could understand where the squad's going, despite the squad being very thin. With Chelsea, when everyone's fit, I don't know what their starting 11 looks like. I would imagine Nkunku plays more. I would imagine that, Reece James starts. I would imagine, this and that. But even then, like, does that mean Lavia is just a bench player? He very well could be. But with the 3-4-2-1 and the way that, these formations are kind of unfolding for Chelsea and the lineups are taking shape, it's honestly just feels like this whole season could, based on how long some of these injuries are, for Chelsea to get to full strength and for them to really bet in, it's going to take time for, first, obviously, Caicedo, Lavia, the newest signings to bet in because they're fit and they could play. But then Reece James has to get back to fitness. Nkunku has to totally kind of like get back to fitness and fit back in. Fofana as well has, a scary ligament injury. And past all that, even Badiashile, like, with Colwell there starting over him, Badiashile I thought looked like one of Chelsea's better players at the back end of last season. What's that going to do to his confidence? And how's Pochettino going to be able to, kind of take this absolute chaos at Chelsea and conduct it into a symphony of sorts? Let me know in the comments, because I'm honestly just at a loss. Like, I thought Chelsea was going to win this game. I thought at worst it'd be a draw. But I didn't expect for West Ham to just, in the second half, to consistently just be at Chelsea with the counters and counters. And that's not to say that there weren't some moments where Chelsea got close and obviously didn't cut the mustard, but they were so thin and far between that it just resulted in a game where if I'm a Chelsea fan, I'd be livid. And I think Poch is too. And Moises Caicedo, hey, mate, just saying, penalty in the first 35 minutes of play for Chelsea in the Premier League. Not a great look, my brother. But, it is what it is. We'll see how Chelsea rebound against Luton next week. And as for West Ham, I think that, I don't know who their next game is. I feel like it'd be a disjustice not to look at it. Brighton, West Ham will have a task on their hands. That could be a good game. Maybe they get a point out of it away. That would be huge for West Ham against Brighton. But anyways, comment down below. What do you think of the Chelsea-West Ham game? West Ham winning 3-1. What do you think of Moises Caicedo's error that led to a penalty? What do you think of these teams through the next few fixtures and throughout the course of the season? How do you predict that they're going to get on? And how do you think the managers are going to handle their situations? Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, consider subscribing for all your Premier League, football, and sometimes Liverpool content needs. Obviously not talking about Liverpool here, but I am a Liverpool fan, so shout out. But thank you everybody for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed. Comment down below. Give me your thoughts. I'm Sideline Sedo. Thanks again for watching. Peace.